Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good morning, Divas. You just tuned into the Divas That Care Network. My name is Candace Gish, and I'm the host of this show. Well, thank you for all of you that have tuned in today. I know that if you're from Alberta or western parts of Canada here, I know that you're probably quite cold. It is crazy weather that we've been getting the last little while, and I know our guest is in the Calgary area, and from what I heard this morning, this is the longest stretch of cold weather they've had in the last 21 years. So I'm so excited that she's going to be talking with us today, because we'll be staying warm in our offices and chatting with all of you today. For any of you that have just tuned in today for the very first time, you know, the Divas That Care Network has been producing shows now for over 8 years. We're in our 9th season, and we're just so excited to be doing this. We continue to do this because we have such amazing guests that share their stories, share what they're wanting to do to make the world a better place. And today's guest is no different. We're just so excited that she's going to be on today. If you'd seen our hashtag out there, it is the Divas That Care. So make sure that when you see that, you check out all the things that we have attached to it, because we have some pretty amazing people that are usually attached to that. So thank you so much. Today's guest is Lorraine Clifford, and I'm very excited to have her. Lorraine, this is your very first time on our show, and I'm just excited to have you, and I want to welcome you to our Diva family.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. And as I was mentioning, it's cold where you're at. So, you know, I thank you very much for coming onto the show today. Would you spend a couple of minutes, Lorraine? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in Manitoba, so the cold doesn't bother me that much.
No, it doesn't.
There. I'm glad I moved, though, because the weather is a lot nicer. I come from a family of 8 children. I'm number 4. And my mom, she passed away with breast cancer at the age of 57. And that was just before my husband and I moved to Calgary. And about a year and a half later, we moved to Calgary, and it was 6 years after my mom had passed away that I got diagnosed with cancer, a different type, and ended up going to the Tom Baker Clinic for a period of 14 years. During that time, I'm the type of person I need to know why, because I thought I was doing life pretty good. You know, I was more granola than most people back then, and you know, cooking meals at home and doing the best that I can. But obviously, I wasn't doing something right. So I started looking at more deeper into my life and started doing personal development and taking many courses on alternative ways of healing and just learning in general. By the time, after the Tom Baker Clinic said I was good to go, so 14 years, they said, yeah, that's okay, you don't need to come back anymore. I dove in a little bit deeper and went back to school full-time and got my certification as a holistic nutritionist. And I continued my schooling with extended courses in nutrition, German New Medicine, I'm a Reiki master, metabolic balance, and the most recent one was the Buteyko breathing, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
And I'm really excited because a lot of people that are probably just tuning in, and they might not know what that is. So if you could spend a couple of minutes just explaining what that is all about.
Sure. So the Buteyko breathing was developed by a medical doctor. And in his undergrad studies, he was asked to study the breathing of sick and dying people. And the first thing he noticed was that they breathed a lot. And he thought, you know, that's so not the way he thought it would be. Because if you're breathing a lot, you should be bringing in more oxygen. And he dove in a little bit deeper and came up with something called the Bohr effect, which states that oxygen transfer, so we're talking about oxygen being transferred, and it's in the bloodstream. So oxygen transfer only happens in the presence of CO2. So when you are breathing too much, So too quick, too big, you don't allow your body to capture enough CO2. And the bottom line is that the oxygen bonds too tight to the red blood cell and it doesn't offload properly. So, and that's systemic because we're talking about oxygen, right? So then you are probably more likely to manifest whatever you're genetically disposed to. So the things that people the diseases people get is because of their stress level. And when we get stressed, the first thing that changes is our breathing. And if we don't rectify it and normalize it before we get stressed again, the next time we get stressed, that breathing goes up again. So we really have to address this. I mean, we're living in a world where everything is now, right? We are so fast-paced. We want our information now. We want to get fixed now. We want to feel better now. We want to sleep now, So
yeah, and that's amazing, because probably people are thinking, look, I breathe all the time, but what you're essentially doing is that you're teaching people how to breathe correctly. Right.
So that you can up the amount of oxygen. And then there's been a lot of studies using the Buteyko method on asthmatics. And statistically, about 90% were able to reduce or come off their medication completely. So that's a high number.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I
then,
think more and more people are being diagnosed with that, aren't they?
Yes. And I guess ultimately it is a breathing problem, right? They have a hard time breathing. They get excited. Everything, the airway cools. There's a histamine reaction. There's constriction and probably buildup of mucus. And so it does make them harder to breathe, for sure. But when you learn how you can control that breathing, then the attacks start to be manageable. I would never say that it cures it, but if you can lessen the amount of medication you're taking, like all medication has side effects, all of it. And so if you can lessen the amount of medication that you're taking, or maybe not even have to take it, have it in your back pocket just in case. But, a big difference. You get healthier. I mean, even people who have high blood pressure, if we think about high blood pressure, it's one of the things that CO2 does in the bloodstream is it relaxes the veins and arteries. So when there's enough in there, if you think of high blood pressure, if there's not enough in there, it's constricted. If there's enough in there, then it relaxes those veins and arteries, and the blood pressure goes down. See, what I'm teaching people is tools of knowing when they're in their fight or flight, so their sympathetic nervous system, and then tools of what to do to get themselves back into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calm, rest, and repair. And that's what we should be, where we should be all day. Most of us are running, like I said, full pace. We are definitely hyperventilating. When I first took this course, when I first learned about Buteyko, I was working for a forward-thinking orthodontist. And he wanted the whole team to take the course so that we could, hopefully help our patients out. And I remember thinking that I was a nose breather for sure. So one of the ways that we hyperventilate is breathing through our mouth. And your mouth doesn't have to be open a lot to breathe through it. It can be just, slightly open and you're breathing through it. So this is all about nose breathing, in and out. So when we were asked to do this course, I remember thinking that I was a nose breather. And then I started to really watch myself. And I noticed that when I bent down to put my shoes on, my mouth was open. When I picked up something, even just a little piece of paper off the floor, my mouth was open. When I ran up the stairs, my mouth was open. When I was in the shower, my mouth was open. When I put my makeup on, my mouth was open. And the biggest clincher for me, put my mask on to work on somebody, my mouth was open. So my mouth was open a whole lot more than what I gave myself credit for.
I think that's fascinating because you don't even think about that, do you?
No, because nobody, like, if I do a trade show and I'm just talking to people, most people don't, like, they understand, we understand that we have to eat a certain amount of food, right? If I decided not to eat food, I'd probably have 3 weeks to a month, maybe a little bit longer. And if I was on a desert island, no food, no butter, you know, I'm down to 3 to 7 days. And if I decided not to breathe, how much time do I have? You know, it's like 3 minutes. 3 minutes, but we don't put the same precedence on it. We, you know, it is automatic, and we just don't think about it. So I'm teaching people. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things I really like about this is people probably didn't realize that important it is to breathe out their nose. They just thought, well, I'm breathing. I'm just, you know, the oxygen's coming in. But you're really teaching them. You're trying to get them to understand why they should be breathing through their nose and not through their mouth. And that's what I really like about this.
Yeah. You know, I talk to people and I say, you know, if I came up behind you and I scared you, I startled you, like you were really scared, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to take that deep breath in. All your muscles are going to tighten up, and your eyes are going to go wide. Now, that's perfect if you need to run or fight. But if you're just doing life, you don't need to be in that parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight. We need to be in our calm when we're doing, you know, our day. If we have, you know, times that do push us into the fight or flight, we should be able to calm down using our breathing, and we don't. You know, so the next time we get stress, and it could be emotional, physical, you know, it doesn't have to be an injury or a sickness, because both of those things stress your body too. Eating things that you're sensitive to stresses your body. You know, there's a lot of things that stress our bodies. Babies are natural nose breathers, belly breathers. So what I'm teaching people is nose breathe in and out and use the diaphragm. So the belly should be moving horizontally as you breathe in, and then it moves back as you breathe out. So it pushes out as you breathe in and back in as you breathe out. And, you know, like I said, babies do this naturally, and then something happens to them. You know, it could be that maybe baby was tongue-tied and breastfeeding was difficult, so they were put on a bottle. Bottle feeding makes it so that the tongue has to work differently. It's more gravity with bottle feeding, and with breastfeeding, the tongue really has to get things moving. And it could be that that's what happened, and a habit of mouth breathing became the norm. Or it could be maybe foods were introduced too soon, and there was an intolerance or a sensitivity, and the nose blocked up. Or it could be they actually did get a cold that lasted a long time, and then the habit was formed of this mouth breathing. Or it could be a learned behavior. Maybe mom or dad breathes too much, and you're holding your baby. They're picking up everything that you're doing, and their breathing changes. But it doesn't matter really.
Well, and one of the things I really like about this is that you're, and we're going to be talking about your website here and your business, The Breathe Way, and you're working with children also. And I love that because about our program, we talk a lot about ways to, help the next generation. And with this program, you are teaching children how to breathe properly. And I think that is so important. And if you want to spend a couple minutes, the benefits of that, because I'm reading and I've been learning a little bit about this, but I really think that our listeners, it's important for them to understand also.
So your cognitive function is going to be better. So a lot of kids are being diagnosed with ADD or ADHD and put on medication because of it. But really, it's a breathing problem that's caused a sleeping problem. So if I'm not sleeping good, I'm gonna lash out during the day, especially as a child, right? I'm going to lash out. My thinking's not going to be all that great. I'm going to be dozing off in class. And I'm not going to be able to, understand things properly because I'm so tired. So when you're over-breathing during the day, that's how you breathe at night. When you're over-breathing at night, you don't readily enter into that stage 4 sleep where you actually rest and repair. So this little person could have been in bed for, 8 to 10 hours, and you go to wake them up and the covers are all over the place, and quite often the head would be, off the bed, so because they're struggling to breathe. And then you wake them up, get them going, and they're a little cranky because they didn't sleep very good, but they don't understand that they didn't sleep very good because this is the way they've been sleeping for a long time because they've been stuffed up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids are being misdiagnosed.
Isn't that amazing? And you hear that all the time. Kids, they're so tired. They're going to school. And, you run across that so much. Well, I'm excited about this because I know that you offer some courses and you're offering some things here in Alberta, and I want to talk about that. But for anybody that isn't in Alberta, do you offer something like an online program for people to learn more about this, or they can work with you that way?
You bet. I'm using the Zoom platform, so I can teach anybody anywhere. And I love the Zoom because Zoom allows me to see that person. So I can, it's almost as good as being in person. The only thing I can't do is give them a hug at the end. Well, not physical.
And those are a good thing to have.
Yeah, exactly. The youngest person I've worked with, well, I'm still working with her. She's 3.
Oh,
and
wow.
the oldest person I've worked with is 83.
That's nice.
Statistically, we are living longer, but what's that quality of life in the end years? A lot of our seniors are on a half a dozen or more medications. They're in wheelchairs on oxygen in a home, and a lot of times
yes.
the cognitive function is not there. And they're just waiting to die for 5 years. I don't want that for myself. I want to be able to cut my grass at 90 if that's what I want to do. And one day I'll go to sleep and I'll have a good sleep and, I'll be resting. I'll be called to the arms of the angels,
Yes.
So I want to be able to do life as best as I can, as full as I can. I'm sure I'll probably slow down a bit, but right now, no. And I'm 62 right now, so I still, and I'm going full force. And I am so passionate about what I'm doing. I look at my own life with being diagnosed with cancer. If I would have known this back then, maybe I wouldn't have been so stressed, and maybe I wouldn't have gotten the cancer. We look at people who have, high blood pressure. What about diabetes? Right now there's a lot of people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. When you are in your fight or flight, you get a surge of glucose. When I need it, I need to run or fight, I need that instant energy. But if I'm just doing life and I'm in my fight or flight, it's low grade, but it's constant. I could be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And then when you're in your fight or flight, there's a blood clotting effect. So if I get cut, the blood will clot. But I don't need that when I'm just doing life. And we hear of people who have a blood clot in their lungs or a brain aneurysm or maybe a blood clot in their leg. And we think, oh my gosh, what happened? How's that happening? But my thinking is they're probably living life in their fight or flight. And even sports, we see a lot of people. My husband and I, we had good friends that were military, and the gentleman liked to do marathons. And he was the healthiest person that I knew. He ate right. He did, he exercised daily. He didn't drink alcohol. Matter of fact, he didn't even drink coffee. And I thought, wow, he's a healthy person, and he liked these marathons. And he did a marathon, and he ended up having a heart attack. And, I remember when we found out about it, I thought, wow, if he's the healthiest person I knew, how could he have a heart attack? But again, if you're not supplying the oxygen to the tissues when it's needed, and when you're exercising, you need that oxygen, then you're setting yourself up for something. A lot of marathoners, well, most people who run, it's in through the nose, out through the mouth. Every breath that you breathe in or out through the mouth is connecting you to your sympathetic nervous system. And you're not slowing down enough to capture that CO2 properly.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that amazing?
You could have a 30% change in your breathing before you start manifesting any symptoms. So if you've got symptoms like allergies, asthma, breathlessness, bronchitis, snoring, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, migraines, pretty much, it's connected to so many things. If you've already got manifesting those symptoms, I would recommend you look into your breathing and see if you can slow it down. So it's about a
Lorraine,
gentle breath. Yeah.
If the people are here in Alberta, I know that you've got some classes. Let's just kind of quickly, because we're running out of time here. I just want to say, Can you explain to our listeners? I know that there's like an introduction class that you're going to be doing, or an info night. Can you tell us about the classes, because you've got like a 4 or 5 part series? Can you explain those to the listeners today?
Yeah, I like people to listen to an introductory class first, and it's 2 hours. And I'm all over the place. I go to Lacombe, to Olds. I'm going to be up in Rimbey. I'm going to be in Lethbridge. And, so I'm doing them, and of course in Calgary here. So first of all, take the introductory course. Even just taking that, you're going to get so much information that you're going to be able to go home and start implementing right away. And if you decide that you have, you want to take the full adult course, it is 5 2-hour classes. And that can be in person in a classroom. It could be in person privately, or it can be through Zoom. And so far, I've only been doing a couple of people at a time, like a husband and wife on Zoom. I haven't started bigger classrooms because I want to be able to really watch these people as they do the exercises, right? So it
Yes.
is a commitment of 5 2-hour classes. Generally, I teach them once a week, depending on your schedule. If I'm doing private classes, we could do them quicker than that. But I like to give you time to get used to the exercises that I've asked you to do before I start changing things up. I want you to get some success and find some relief. Most people, usually by about class 2, they're sleeping better. And when you're sleeping better, your body's repairing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, and what a great tool to teach people. And this is great, guys. So any of you that are wanting to learn more about this, she's got an amazing website out there. It's called breedway and then .com. And on there is a list of her workshops that she has going on. And there's quite a few that are starting right away here. And it's a great way to get out of the house right now and go and check these out. I think they're going to be a great thing for a lot of our listeners, because that is one of the things that I know that when we get texts and stuff, they're always asking us different questions, and I know that this one is going to work out for a lot of our ladies that have sent these questions in. So, oh my goodness, Lorraine, this is absolutely fantastic. Is there any last-minute tips, tools, anything you'd love to share with our listeners today?
Well, just work on slowing down. You know, give yourself that time. Give yourself the time and the grace to slow your body down and come back to your breathing. This can be done anywhere. And the beauty about taking the classes is it's measurable, so you know when you're doing it right. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So many people, you know, have even just taken the introductory course and, you know, shot me an email like 2 years later saying, oh my gosh, you can't imagine how this has changed my life. You know, just pay attention. We're so much out there, you know, on what's going out there, we don't come back here to the body. I want you to come back to the body every once in a while.
Oh. Thank you so much. You know, and thank you. This was just an amazing. I really believe in what you're doing. I think this is going to change people's lives, and I hope that you come back on the show again, because I know that you're going to have lots of things that you could share with our listeners. I'm going to be posting all your information on our website and all our social media today for our listeners to check out, and they'll be able to get a hold of you.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Well, I had a lot of fun, and I know our listeners did too. So thank you again, and thank you to all of our listeners and everybody that is tuned in for the very first time, and for all of our repeat listeners. You know, we thank you so much. I hope that you're able to take this show, because all of our calls are recorded. You can actually share this show with your friends and family, people that might really benefit from what Lorraine is offering out there. You know, this could be quite life-changing for a lot of individuals. So I hope that you do check out her information, check out her courses and things that she's doing. You can get all that information too off our website at divasthatcare.com. So I hope that each and every one of you has absolutely an amazing day. Make sure that if you are in Alberta, you are staying warm. And until next time, I hope that all of you have a great day. Make sure that you do something kind for somebody soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
For years, tuition in Alberta grew more and more expensive, putting accessibility at risk. But now, after 4 years of freezes, tuition costs are stable and education is affordable. Making tuition more affordable means more Albertans have access to post-secondary education, and that means more Albertans are set for success in a diverse and growing economy. It's looking up. To find out how you can take advantage of affordable tuition, visit alberta.ca/up. A message from the Government of Alberta.